Good evening.
Good evening.
So, Charlene kind of talked about this a little bit, about the process that EMT students and paramedic students have to go through when they go through school. And typically, by the time they actually get to tonight, they're not quite licensed. They're almost there. They just have one more clinical to do, or they have one more exit interview to do, or they've got one more thing before they're ready to test. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce out of my class two people who have passed that point. They did everything they needed to do, and they sit before you tonight as licensed paramedics. Jeff Gibbons, Jacob Mobley, would you please stand up?
You're the second golden child.
I get my notes ready. All right. So when I contemplated everything that had been going on for the last year, the reality that these paramedics and EMTs were soon to be released onto the general public, I welled up with such emotion. I felt a very strong urge to relocate myself and my family to another area. I'd like to say welcome to all family, friends, and graduates. It's a very special day. I'd like to thank those individuals that supported each one of you, EMTs and paramedics, throughout this very trying time. You've had to be by their side while they went through 4 months as an EMT or a year as a paramedic, where the constant running between work, class, clinicals, and if time permitted, maybe a little sleep in there. Graduates, all of you, at this point in time, I'd like you to offer up an applause for everybody that supported you in this time. The second thing I'd like to do is for all those loved ones, family, and friends out there, is to offer up my sympathies. As my non-medical wife constantly reminds me, EMTs and paramedics have a very special personality type, outside of the usual skills of what is considered normal. As an example of this, the general public is usually shocked and horrified when the news comes on of a terrible car accident, mangled car, pieces, parts everywhere. Your particular loved one, EMT or paramedic, will sit there and giggle to themselves as the firefighter walks by with their fly down. You may also see your same particular loved ones, in an effort to play a practical joke on the emergency department staff, place a specimen jar filled with a melted chocolate candy bar up on the desk, claim it is a stool sample from their patient, and while the partner walks up, sticks their fingers in, and to the horror of the nurses and the physicians goes, "Ooh, fudgy." For this and so much more, you have my sympathies. They are like this in a large part to alleviate the weight of the hefty responsibility that is placed on them and some of the terrible things that they'll have to see and hear that will haunt them for the rest of their careers. They certainly don't do this job for the fame and glory. In the same car accident that we just talked about, the news reporter will talk about the heroic efforts of police officers who controlled the scene, the firefighters who worked hard in the freezing rain, sleet, and snow to use their jaws of life to get the patient out of the mangled vehicle. And then that same reporter will always say, and the patient was transported to the hospital by ambulance. What they never say, what they never highlight, is the paramedic or the EMT that is in the back of the ambulance by him or herself, wiping dripping sweat from his face, his or her hands moving faster than what he or she thinks they're normally capable of, in a desperate effort to stop an arterial bleed or provide IV fluids or medicines to keep a blood pressure from falling and saving that patient's life. All while traveling at 80 miles an hour in a bumpy ambulance. They don't do it for the pay, that's for sure. There are so many other career choices that pay so much more, don't require the extensive schooling and science knowledge, and is certainly not so physically demanding. And based on the level of the intelligence that's been my pleasure to witness of the graduates here tonight, they would do perfectly well. In truth, these soon-to-be EMTs and paramedics are taking each one of you, their loved ones, with them as they progress through their career. You, their loved ones, will be the only one at that Christmas pageant sometimes. Or Christmas mornings can be spent with the loved one that you see here on duty. You will spend some of your anniversaries and birthdays alone because of this very same reason. There will be times when your EMT or paramedic loved one will come home after being on duty, and you can tell by the look on their face that they had a bad shift. When you ask them how their day was, they may avert their eyes from you and say, "It was fine." My advice for you, their loved ones, is to not push them into talking about it. They may be dealing with sights and sounds that most normal people should ever see. Just hug them and tell them that you love them. Sometimes that will be the best medicine that you can deliver to an EMT and paramedic. They do this job for one reason and one reason alone. They want to be the one there when someone cries out for help. They're willing to ignore hunger pains, full bladders, those bills that have yet to be paid. Because when they are on a call, none of those things matter. The person who called 911 doesn't care that their EMT or medic is hungry or just had an argument with their spouse. They want to do this job, as cliched as it sounds, to truly help others in their time of need. I defy anyone to tell me that there are no good people left on this earth. They sit before you tonight. Once upon a time, in a classroom, not too terribly far away from here, I walked in and introduced myself to a group of paramedic students. They were divided into several categories. There was a firefighter group, a group of people who knew each other from EMT class, another group who had years of experience as field EMTs, and yet another that had never spent a day working in the field as an EMT. And now I'm so proud to tell you what this group has become. They're one, united, partners with each other. I've watched them go from EMTs to being cocky paramedics in all but name. And it was an interesting year. We lost a lot of people along the way, but each one of you that sit here, knowing the hard work and the effort you put in, you're ready to join the ranks of being a paramedic. You passed your final exams. It's now time to put an end to that year. A year that saw some of us doing a training scenario involving a mass casualty situation that had several drunk high school students in a simulated wreck. Training scenarios where we pulled 150-pound dummies from staircases that were in cardiac arrest. A year that gave us the opportunity to go on a field trip to Body Worlds at St. Louis Science Center, where we had the opportunity to actually see a heart that had a portion that had infarcted. Many of you have earned nicknames, such as Junior. Junior has a very young face. As a matter of fact, I'm still not sure he didn't use a fake ID to get into paramedic class. Then there was Eeyore. Every single time I had an opportunity to give a quiz, it was always, can I use my book? I'm still not sure of the drug dosages. In which case I would respond, if you say that one more time about open book test, you're going to get another quiz. And his class usually got a second quiz. We also had the opportunity to learn a new form of doing CPR. Thank you, Mr. Jeff Gibbons. I've listened empathetically to your frustrations with clinicals or a classroom topic, and you've had me discuss my disappointment with you over a test score, or stare you down while you were trying to remember how to cardiovert someone, or give me an answer to a drug dose, only to have me respond, "Are you sure?" Is that the answer you want to give? Really? Are you willing to bet everybody's grade in class today on that answer? Sometimes I was harsh. I didn't do it to be mean. I was harsh in my judgment of your performance because at some point, someone's going to hand you a 12-lead cardiac monitor and a narcotic box, and send you on the road where you are in charge of that particular ambulance, and the cold reality of that situation will become readily apparent to you when the doors to that ambulance close for the very first time, and you don't have a preceptor with you. But now you're ready. I've spent the last year watching you grow into very competent members of the pre-hospital team. I say this with all seriousness. I know that you all will do very well. I know that you will make a difference. I'm happy to be able to call each one of you my peer. I would set foot on the ambulance, beating back the Grim Reaper with each one of you. My parting words to you are as follows. Remember that this gift, this ability to affect positive change in a patient's life, is something you should never take for granted. Always be humble to the fact that there's always something more that you can learn, that you do not know it all. And as one paramedic once said, you're going to be present when some people are born, and you're going to be there when they die. In almost every society, such moments are reserved only for close family members to experience. But you, as the paramedic or the EMT, are personally invited to such events. Always hold that with the greatest honor in your heart. Congratulations and good luck.